Welcome to episode 438. Have you ever woken up feeling heavy, foggy, or unmotivated and told yourself, I must be tired? But what if you're not actually tired at all? What if your body is asking for something completely different? In this episode, I'm sharing a personal experience I recently had, which I feel is important to share, as knowing what to do in this situation determines your health outcomes. So please stay tuned. Welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host, Colette. And if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend starting with the first few episodes where I introduce the foundations of Ayurveda and the doshas. To learn more, work with me, or explore my offerings, you can visit elementshealingandwellbeing.com. And for podcast updates, join me on Instagram at Elements of AyurvedaPodcast. And before we begin, just a quick note to say that this podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. It's not intended as medical advice. Now let's dive into this episode. Hey there, it's Colette for a solo episode today, and I want to start this episode with a simple question. Have you ever felt tired, but something about it didn't quite feel like true fatigue? Not the kind of tiredness that comes after a full, busy day, but more of a heaviness, like a fog, where you feel resistance to movement and kind of a quiet inertia or lack of motivation, where even small things feel like effort. Maybe you've felt that recently, and it can show up as hitting the snooze button a few too many times, craving sugar or comfort foods, struggling to feel motivated, or just feeling a bit dull or disconnected. And often in those moments, we tell ourselves, I'm just tired. I need more rest. I'll feel better tomorrow. But what if that feeling is not actually about needing more rest? I want to share something I noticed recently in myself. There was one morning where I woke up feeling heavy, not exhausted or depleted, but just slow. My body felt really dense and my mind was not clear. And there was this resistance to starting the day, which is very unusual for me because I'm normally an early bird. And as the morning went on, I noticed it wasn't just in my body. It was in my mind as well. I sat at my computer to begin working and there was just no motivation or inspiration. No sense of flow, just kind of inertia. I was there, but I just wasn't really engaged. Staring at the screen, unable to access clarity or creativity. And when I reflected on this more deeply through an Ayurvedic lens, I could recognize the specific qualities of Kapha that were present in the moment. There was Manda, a kind of slowness or dullness, not my usual sharp and clear Pitta, but muted and slowed down. There was inertia, a resistance to movement, a feeling of being stuck. And I feel that if I didn't have my Ayurvedic lens with which to run this through, I could brush it off because it wasn't a dramatic shift. It was subtle, almost imperceptible. And this is how Kapha can show up in the mind, not just as physical heaviness, but as difficulty initiating, or a lack of inspiration, or a sense of being mentally like you're in the mud or being held down. And when we don't recognize these qualities for what they are, we can easily misinterpret them. My first instinct, like many of us, was to interpret these feelings as, I must be tired. So the natural impulse was to get to bed earlier and sleep longer, move more slowly, and maybe delay things, don't take on too much. But instead of immediately responding, I just sat with it. Instead of reacting to the feeling, I got curious about it. And I asked myself, what does this actually feel like in my body? And what I noticed was that it was not a lack of energy. It was a quality, like a density or heaviness, a kind of internal stillness that had tipped into stagnation. In Ayurveda, this is where we begin to understand Kapha more deeply. Now, as you know, Kapha is made up of the earth and water elements. It gives us stability, nourishment, groundedness, endurance. It's what allows us to feel calm and steady and supported. But like all things in Ayurveda, balance is key. And when Kapha accumulates, these same beautiful qualities can begin to feel like heaviness, sluggishness, fogginess, emotional dullness, or resistance to change. And what I was experiencing that morning was not depletion. It was an accumulation of Kapha, a kind of stagnation or residue that clouds clarity, both physically and mentally. From the outside, this can also look very similar to fatigue, because both can feel like low energy, low motivation, and a desire to withdraw or rest. But they require completely different responses. If it's true fatigue, often more vata related with depletion of the nervous system, the body is then asking for rest, warmth, nourishment, and stillness. However, if it's a Kapha accumulation, the body is asking for the opposite: movement, lightness, stimulation, and gentle activation. And this is where we can unknowingly move further out of balance, resulting in more Kapha aggravation. Because if we misread Kapha as fatigue, we may end up sleeping more, eating heavier foods, avoiding movement, and all of that increases Kapha even further. And as I reflected more, my body was showing subtle signs of accumulated Kapha, because I was no longer craving the foods that I had been enjoying all winter, the heavier foods like pumpkin and sweet potato and nut butters. And when I did eat these items out of habit, my digestion felt heavy afterwards. But as often happens during the transition of the seasons, I go through a couple of weeks of being confused about what to eat, because the weather is going back and forth between the seasons. For example, where I live here in the south of France, one day last week I was in a t-shirt, and the next day I was bundled up in my fleece jacket, and my digestion was getting confused, just like the weather. And when I'm getting all these signals and I'm listening to my body, I take these subtle signals as the cue to simplify my diet and support my body by cleansing. So I tailored a cleanse to my Kapha symptoms and introduced warming digestive spices to help stimulate Agni, the inner fire, back into the system. Along with the Kapha pacifying cleanse, I practice Kapha pacifying yoga, which has more flow, and pranayam like Brastrika or bellows breath to stimulate the body and mind. And within a relatively short time, the fog lifted and everything began to shift. My mind became clearer, my digestion and body felt lighter, and there was more of a sense of aliveness again. I had that spark back in the morning. And what struck me most was that I wasn't actually tired at all. I had simply been interpreting a Kapha state as fatigue. And this is why I wanted to share this experience, as I think many of you could be feeling the same qualities, especially at this time of year, the end of winter season, when we can have a natural accumulation of Kapha in the body. And of course, then we're dealing with the transition of the seasons. So this can bring quite a lot of confusion to the digestive system, as I mentioned earlier. And what Ayurveda teaches us is that the body is always communicating. However, we often interpret through habit or respond through conditioning or override through routine instead of truly listening. Ayurveda is much deeper than following guidelines for your doshic makeup. It's about a relationship with your body, a moment-to-moment awareness of what is present, what qualities are arising, and what response would restore balance. And so rather than following generalized guidelines all year round, I always recommend checking in with your body and mind every morning and be aware of the qualities you're feeling and make adjustments accordingly in your diet and lifestyle. And that's how this relationship with your body works. If you give your body what it needs, it will maintain balance and prevent disease. This episode is brought to you by Kerala Ayurveda Academy India Immersion, a unique opportunity to experience Ayurveda in its place of origin, Kerala, India. Guided by renowned Ayurvedic doctor Vaidya Jayarajan Kodi Kanath, this immersive journey takes you deep into the culture, landscapes, and living traditions of Kerala, Dr. J's home state and one of the birthplaces of Ayurveda. During this 14-day experience, you'll visit Kerala Ayurveda's health village, explore medicinal herb gardens, and see how traditional Ayurvedic herbal preparations are made. You'll also travel through Kerala's lush backwaters, temples, and coastal towns while enjoying yoga, meditation, authentic cuisine, and rejuvenating Ayurvedic treatments. Whether you're an Ayurveda student, practitioner, or simply someone curious about this ancient healing tradition, the India Immersion offers a rare opportunity to experience it where it has been practiced for generations. To learn more and download the full brochure, visit KeralaAyurveda.us and you'll find that link in the show notes. And so I want to encourage you to take a small moment of reflection. The next time you feel tired, unmotivated, heavy, or foggy, take a moment and ask yourself, what does this actually feel like? Is it light and depleted or heavy and stagnant? Is your body asking for rest or movement? There is a space between what we feel and how we respond. And that space is where awareness lives. It's where choice becomes possible. And over time, this is what strengthens your connection to your body. What Ayurveda would call a deeper relationship with your inner intelligence. This becomes especially important as we move from winter into spring, because this is Kapha season, a time when the qualities of heaviness, coolness, moisture, and stability naturally increase in the environment and in our bodies. All that has accumulated over winter and begins to loosen in springtime as the weather starts to warm up. And if it's not supported, it can show up as sluggish digestion, allergies, brain fog, low mood, or lack of motivation. So instead of seeing these symptoms as something going wrong, we can begin to see them as the body communicating accumulation and asking for lightness and movement. And this is why awareness is so important, because before we change anything, before we cleanse, before we follow a protocol, we need to be able to recognize what's actually happening in the body. This is the kind of awareness we cultivate before a seasonal reset, by listening first. And so I encourage you to stay curious. And the next time you feel tired, pause, feel, notice, and see if there's something more subtle underneath. Because often what we think is fatigue is simply the body asking for a different kind of support, not to do more, but to tune into nature. And if you feel called to go deeper, if you want to increase your awareness and experience the seasonal transition in a supported, structured way, well, then come join the discounted group Digestive Reset Cleanse starting April 17th. This is a healing journey, and it's also an educational journey, where in your 90-minute online consultation with me, you'll learn about your unique constitution and your subtle signs of imbalance and how to work in relationship with your body and mind. And as you go through this group cleanse, you'll begin to viscerally feel these shifts in your body. And that's the real catalyst to change as you go forward. This group cleanse also comes with a private community for support and accountability. And upon completion of the cleanse, you'll not only feel lighter and clearer, but wiser about your own body. And so if you're ready for a spring reset, you can register and book your online cleanse consultation with me by visiting my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, or just click on the link in the show notes. And if you want to chat before registering, then just take advantage of my free 15-minute services inquiry call. We can hop on Zoom and I can answer all of your questions. Now, if you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them. And if you feel like you're getting benefit from this podcast, I would really appreciate a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. And don't forget to follow or subscribe so the new episodes download automatically. And please come join me on social media. On Instagram, it's Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. And on Facebook, it's Elements Healing and Wellbeing. And so I'm wishing you a healthy seasonal transition. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.